Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on Sports.
Welcome in, everybody, to FST. It is me, Joey P. Joe P's PS Fantasy Sports Today, right here on Sports Grid. With me today is George Kurtz, and we're going to take you from wall-to-wall baseball to a little bit of football at the very top. George Kurtz, it's always great to see you on a Sunday morning for a little FST. You look spry this morning. You look like you're ready to go, ready to conquer the world. I want to know this. How's your oblique? How is your elbow? Because it seems like nobody has either of those two things working right now in Major League Baseball.
Oblique, right? Lat, a lot of injuries, right? It's that time of year. And, you and I were just talking during the break real quick, right? There do seem to be more injuries now than usual. Maybe it's the last couple of years, and which is strange, right? Because guys take care of themselves all season long now, right? There is no off season. They're working out, but these injuries popping up over and over again. Yeah, it's concerning, to put it nicely. If you're in a keeper league, it's annoying. A dynasty league, it's annoying. Hell, if you've already had your draft, right, you may have lost a player or two right now. And let's face it, people laugh at that. It's March 9th. The season technically starts in 8 days. So you may have already had your draft. Joe, my home league draft, and let's face it, what drafts I'm going to be in? I'm going to be in a bunch. All right, I've already done a couple here. My home league is the one I care about the most, okay? I don't care about the industry leagues. I mean, I want to beat my brother. I want to beat my lifelong friends, right? Because those are the guys that I'm never going to hear the end of if they beat me, right? You got to do a show and I beat it. I don't need all this crap. So my home league, which is going on like a year 33, that's the league I care about the most. And that draft is tomorrow night.
33. That's a pretty good run right there, my friend. I'm very impressive. Look, we got a lot of baseball headlines to get to, including a lot of Yankee rotation headlines. So earmuffs, George Kurtz. In the meantime, there's a quarterback that's on his way to the Las Vegas Raiders. Seattle's old coach is reunited with his old quarterback. Geno Smith is headed to the Raiders. So that's going to change potentially some of the draft calculus. Maybe the Giants are a team that's moving up to number one to take Shedeur Sanders. That's been rumbling a lot of places, but there were a lot of folks that thought maybe that the Raiders would be in for a first-round quarterback. Do you think that plan has changed now that Geno Smith is in Vegas? And what does the Vegas move mean for Seattle now in their open quarterback situation? Is Sam Darnold the answer in Seattle?
Let's start with the Raiders here, right? Your first question was, would they still draft a quarterback? You have the 6th pick. All right, Cam Ward's not getting there. We know that. Shedeur Sanders could get there, right? That wouldn't be the biggest shock if he falls down that low. I don't think he will, but he could. All right, so would they draft him? I'm going to say no, that they will not. Maybe they draft the quarterback in the second round, a Jackson Dart or Milrow if they fall down that low, someone of that ilk here. I think they'll take the maybe McMillan at 6, maybe Genty at 6. That's the big play now, right? I think Genty's almost the favorite to go there at 6, the top running back there. So I can see that. Do I think Geno Smith solves their quarterback problems? I mean, he's better than Minshew, better than O'Connell, fine. But Mahomes, Herbert, I'm not even sure you're better than Bo Nix. All right, you're better than what you had, but it doesn't bring the Raiders to a playoff team or bring them all that much better to anybody else in their division. So they still have some issues there. Geno is a decent quarterback, but he always makes those 1-2 minute. What are you doing? Geno, what did you see there that you threw that? He's that kind of guy, Joe. And I think that's what separates him from what he is to where he could be if he didn't make those 1 or 2, little head scratches. What are you doing here? As for Seattle, by the way, I was on SportsGrid with Cam and Gabe when this news came down. Cam's a Seattle fan. Cam not happy. All right, it was great. He doesn't want it to be Donald. I think he wants a reset. So he wants them to, I guess, trade up because they pick at 18. So I guess he'd want them to trade up to get a quarterback and sort of rebuild their, hey, if you're moving up from DK Metcalf, you might as well, right? You're stripping it down anyway. Tyler Lockett's gone there. So we'll see. Is Sam Darnold, if I was going to be a betting man, and I am, I think Sam Darnold, they had to have a plan, Joe, right? They would not have done this without a plan. So, yes, I think Sam Darnold is that plan.
Maybe. Jackson Dart also available probably a little later in that first round. I'm a Jackson Dart guy. I've definitely been pushing him during the football season and obviously during the combine. Some pretty good performances from him too. Let's start back to baseball, George, because Garrett Cole is getting second opinions. And in my opinion, that's never a good thing. So it looks like Garrett Cole could be headed towards the Tommy John, which means he would miss all the 2025 season. So if you're looking for some odds on the Boston Red Sox or the Toronto Blue Jays or even the Baltimore Orioles, maybe even the Rays, this is the time to jump in it, because after this news finally drops, I think there will be a change in the calculus potentially. Now, look, the Yankees still got a lot of arms in that rotation. Rodon, they brought in Max Fried, but also at the top of our headlines, we're going to be missing Luis Gil for quite some time, a few months with a lat strain. That's a significant one too. And Gil was a guy that last year, obviously a very good rookie season. The innings got pushed quite a bit. I had major concerns about him coming into this year because if you dig deeper, the xERA, the xFIP, the FIP were all higher than the ERA, all indicators that there would be regression for Gil. So the Yankees are in a tough spot here, George. Realistically, look, I know you're a Yankee guy, but at the same time, you're a realist, you're a pragmatist, you're hard knocks kind of fella. What does the Garrett Cole loss mean for the New York Yankees, and how quickly will they look to fill that void at the top of that rotation in the months ahead?
Well, let's face it. All right. What you said, the first thing you said is true. He's seeking a second opinion. That's bad, boys and girls. All right. Because you do not seek a second opinion if everything's fine and dandy. Oh, you're good. Oh, thanks, Doc. Let's go pitch. All right. Well, you need Tommy John surgery. Okay. I need a second opinion. All right. That has to be what that is. All right, there's something major going on there, so not good. I don't think we're going to see Cole anytime soon. We already know we're not seeing Louis Gil. He's down 6 weeks, and then he has to ramp up again. So now you're talking an extra 6 weeks on top of that. So that's 3 months. So you're talking Louis Gil, July. All right, your rotation right now is Max Fried. Okay, fine, but he's not making 32 starts. That ain't happening. All right, Rodon. Okay, Clark Schmidt, who's already behind a little bit. Right, he's behind Joe. They already want to back him up a little bit, and then Marcus Stroman, who they couldn't give away during the offseason, right? They were giving away him with a bunch of bats and balls if anybody wanted them. Couldn't give him away, and he can't last more than half a season anyway. And Will Warren, who got wrecked last year. Now, he was a rookie. He looks better in spring. And after that, by the way, it's Carlos Carrasco. They've got some problems, all right? If Cole is out, let's face it, if he's out the season, you already – no matter what you want to make the joke about Stanton and LeMahieu, but you don't have a third baseman. Now you don't have Stanton. Your offense isn't going to pick it up, boys and girls. The Yankees are in a lot of trouble. The Yankees are in a lot of trouble. I mean, there's red flags popping up all over the place, right? The alarm bells are going off. Yankees have a lot of issues right now.
Yeah, and a big change, too, last year having Juan Soto and Garrett Cole and then not having either of those two guys. It's good they brought in some bodies and depth, but you can't replace a guy like Garrett Cole at the top. So maybe you're looking to make a move, and who do the Yankees want to move in that system? Also, dealing with an oblique issue, Christian Walker taking it very slow. We'll keep an eye on that. Some guys off to good starts, though, in the spring. Hunter Green being one of them, Julio Rodriguez the other. But Grayson Rodriguez, another Rodriguez, having some issues with his tricep. So we're going to keep an eye on that. They're hoping that he won't have to start the year on the IL, but we shall find out. But going back to some of the guys doing better in spring, Hunter Green, last year, a pretty solid season, cut the home run rate down, George. That was very important. 169 strikeouts in just 150 innings. If you're looking for strikeouts in your league, Hunter Green is a great way to go. And then Julio Rodriguez, a guy that once again struggled at the start of the year. If we could ever get a 6-month full Julio Rodriguez hot season, I can't imagine what that looks like. I'm curious, so far in some of your early drafts, do you have any targets of Julio Rodriguez and Hunter Green?
In that home league that I talked about, he was my keeper for 3 years. We were only allowed to keep guys for 3 years. So last year was my last year. So this year he's back in the pile. But he seems to be the guy, Joe, where, I mean, you just said it, where you don't want to draft him, but you want to trade for him in June, right? Before he heats up, and get a discount. Listen, that's easier said than done. Odds are everybody knows this, that he's a second half guy or a last 2/3 guy here. But you're right. If he ever plays it for 6 months, he's going to put up monster numbers here. But that ballpark is not conducive to hitting, and that lineup is not conducive to hitting. They can pitch, although George Kirby, we didn't talk about him. He may be down a little bit as well here. So we'll see what's going on in Seattle.
Another one.
But yes, I'm still drafting J-Rod, but I'm not going overboard for him.
Yeah, Kirby, another guy who could be on the shelf to start the year. Spring training, the time of injuries, and we've been going through all of the position previews the last few weeks. Today, we're going to dive deep into the outfield. So when we come back, the top guys at the position.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everybody, to FST. We're all fired up talking outfield already, and the show hasn't even started on air. And we're going to talk about some of the top targets at the position. And, of course, the number one outfielder in most people's boards right now is Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. Another stunning season for Judge, MVP worthy. Look at the projections for 2025, the OPS over 1,000, the home runs scratching the surface of 50 and 120 RBI. Now, look, George, the Yankee lineup around him got deeper, but you are taking away Juan Soto, who was getting on base at a magical clip over 400 last year. When you take that presence away from a lineup, it's hard not to think that that is going to have an impact on Aaron Judge in some way. You hope that Cody Bellinger is able to bounce back a little bit. You're hoping that Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe take a step forward, and you're also hoping you're going to get something out of Paul Goldschmidt. But it's a lot of hope right now. Juan Soto was your sure thing. So out of curiosity, for you, George, when you're looking at the board, is Aaron Judge still the default number one guy on your outfield board? Or is it somebody like a Juan Soto in a Mets lineup that right now looks like potentially one of the best 1 through 4s in baseball?
Oh, the Mets are going to score runs. All right. Let's face it. The Mets, by the way, if you're an older Yankee fan of the 80s Yankees, they're going to be a lot of 8-6 games. All right. Because they can't pitch all that much, but they can hit. So, yes, we all want Juan Soto. Am I taking Soto over Judge? Well, once again, I'll go to my home league. I have the second pick on Monday night. All right. My brother has the pick 1. He's already told me he's taking Ohtani. No shot there. I'm taking Judge. Okay. So, I listen. And my second choice, by the way, was not Soto. My second choice was Bobby Witt. And
Oh, sure. I said at outfield, I did have the caveat, number 1 outfielder. Just say. At number 2 overall pick, I'm with you. Bobby Witt is my guy, too. And I think it's a good discussion to have because, look, I think Bobby Witt is intriguing at number 2 for sure. He's my pick. He's your pick. Jose Ramirez, and you look at the third baseman there. It's not a lot of 30-30 third baseman floating around.
When Jose that there's nobody around him, he lost. I mean, not that Naylor is great, but he lost Naylor. I mean, sooner or later, it's like, walk that man. He no beat me. I mean, I am never pitching to Jose. I know it doesn't work. They don't do that in baseball. I know it's a macho thing. I don't know. I'm telling you, Joe, Jose, go to first base. You want to try and steal second? Go ahead. But just go. Unless there's 2 outs, nobody on, I have a 7-run lead. I'm not pitching to the man. Listen, I don't see that as a joke. It's what I believe. If I'm running a team, that's what I'm doing. I'm not letting the only player or the only hitter a team has, I'm not letting him beat me. And their pitching staff's pretty decent. They're going to play a lot of close games. A solo home run might beat me. I don't understand why teams pitch to somebody like that. I mean, come on. Can your average baseball fan name another Cleveland hitter right now?
No, there you go. Stephen Kwan is what our producer just said.
Yeah,
so he was right. Zero chill from Sam Y, the sports guy here on the program this morning. Next up on our list, the aforementioned Juan Soto, moving from the Bronx to Queens. The projections for him this year, a 945 OPS. We know he's an on-base machine, a 277 batting average, about 10 stolen bases for good measure, and also looking about 35 home runs or so. When you're looking at Juan Soto and trying to evaluate him, this is a player that is going to be turning 26 by the end of the season. We know in OBP leagues how valuable he is. You can make a case for him as the number 2 overall pick in that format too. But if you're playing in batting average, might be a little bit different of a scenario. There's going to come pressure here, obviously. And we've seen this before, George, where guys sign massive contracts and sometimes get off to the races a little slow. We've seen Juan Soto have a really good spring. Sometimes that also starts you off a little slow in April, right? It's ebbs and flows. But you mentioned that lineup when you've got Lindor on one side, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, hopefully with that knee injection going through today, that he's going to be their opening day. It's a very formidable lineup. It's a good spot. And apparently the Mets weren't the highest bidders. We just found that out this weekend, that the Red Sox and maybe another team were willing to go higher than the Mets, and he chose Queens. So when you're choosing Juan Soto, what do you think you're getting in 2025? Are you concerned with somebody pressing under the weight of an enormous contract, at least early on in the year, as we've seen with Bryce Harper, Carlos Beltran? The list goes on and on over the years.
Well, wasn't there more pressure on him last year in the Bronx, Yankees, and to try and get the big contract, right? And then he came through with flying colors. Listen, Juan Soto is a great hitter. He's not a great baseball player. He's an average outfielder at best, and that's probably being kind. All right. He has his issues out there. He can make right field fun. He's not terrible, but he makes it fun. And his base running is nothing special either. But he's a fantastic hitter. All right. Is he going to hit 40-plus home runs? No. You're probably going to give him a little discount there. He doesn't have Yankee Stadium in the short porch. Not that he hit a lot of them, but hey, I'm sure he took advantage of a few of them there. Although then again, he can hit the ball with a lot of power to left center. He doesn't have Death Valley to worry about either, even though Yankee Stadium is not what it used to be as far as Death Valley is concerned here. So he's going to hit his 34, 35 home runs. He's going to drive in over 100 runs, probably bat over 300. Listen, I said I would take Judge over him. I said I would take Witt next. Soto's after that. So you're splitting hairs here. You want to take Soto over Judge? Fine. I don't know why you would do that. So, I mean, Judge's numbers are probably going to be better across the board as far as home runs, RBIs, average, stolen bases. Neither one's going to steal a bunch. So you're not getting any advantage. That's why I'm going to take Judge over him. But, Joe, if you're telling me Soto is my first, my anchor, my first player, I'm thrilled. I'll take that run every damn time.
Let's talk about two more top targets. Corbin Carroll, who again last year had a terrible start to the season, picked things up in a dramatic fashion in the second half. We know he's got some pop. We know he's got speed. He's hitting at the top of a very potent lineup that scored a ton of runs last year for the Diamondbacks. And now on the flip side, next to him is Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, Tatis, you look at the projections for him. Again, a full healthy season, something he doesn't always get. 30 homers, 20-plus steals. I'm more apt to take Fernando Tatis than Corbin Carroll. That's not how most ADP kind of shakes out. George, I'm curious where you are with these two players who are going very close in ADP at the same position.
I wonder if last year for Carroll was a second year. They have figured it out. He had to make the adjustments. Took him a little bit here. Bottom line is this: I'm not afraid of either one. I did try and trade for Carroll in that keeper league, but I was unsuccessful here, so I have no problem getting him. Tatis, same thing. Although we're still waiting for Tatis to be that star, right? Before the injury, before the steroids and everything else that came out here. So I'm okay with both here. I prefer Carroll. I think I trust him a little bit more with Tatis, but it's close. And once again, splitting hairs.
I feel like Tatis has the higher ceiling overall. I think Carroll might be a little limited in the power at the end of the day, but we shall see. There's more elite guys to come. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
It's made every it's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
We are talking about the top targets in the outfield and fantasy in 2025 here in the baseball season. We've got another one on the docket here to discuss. It's Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros. Now, the Astros did lose two huge pieces in their lineup. So just like that discussion we had earlier about Aaron Judge missing Juan Soto, the question is, how much will Alvarez miss Kyle Tucker, who did miss a chunk of the season last year, and Alex Bregman, two guys who've been stalwarts in that lineup for quite some time. Now, Jose Altuve is going to be turning 35. He's getting a little older. It's nice that we've got guys like, Cam Smith, who are starting to look good here at third base, and some of these young players starting to come through a little bit. They did go out there and get Isaac Paredes, but you look at Alvarez going forward here, the projections for him, probably going to hit 300. They're going to have an OPS well north of 900, probably close to 100 runs scored, 35 homers, and almost 100 RBI. So it's a lot to like here with Alvarez. The only question is, do you have any concerns, George? Talk to me about what this Houston Astros lineup looks like with some of these pieces that are missing, and did they do enough this offseason to replace those big names? Does it even matter for Alvarez because he's just so damn good?
Yeah, I'm not all that concerned. I think, listen, you're not going to replace Kyle Tucker. All right, he's a great player. All right, once again, the Yankee fan, I really wanted him to be traded to the Yankees. Although if I was Houston, that was never going to happen. But I think he's a great player. Although I do have some worries when you change leagues first year with the new team, everything that comes being a human, where am I going to live? Where my family going to stay? Where do I get my laundry? All that sort of stuff. So I always worry about that when a player gets traded. Plus, hey, in Wrigley Field, the wind blows in more than it blows out, by the way. So that also concerns me there. But Alvarez, you lost Bregman too. You still have Altuve, who I hate. You bring in Paredes, right? It's Buzzer Boy. You're never going to be able to he's the player I dislike most in baseball.
You
right?
still got to hit the ball, wife. George, I can tell you a 95 mile an hour fastball is coming over the plate or here or there.
Wearing a buzzer. It's a lot easier to hit if you know what pitch is coming, by the way. You don't have to worry about it.
Wait, is stealing signs new to baseball? I hadn't heard
I don't
that
mind
before.
He was wearing a buzzer.
What's the difference if it's buzzed in or somebody at second base is relaying the sign to you? What's the difference? I'm just curious.
That's not what he was doing. I have no problem with a base runner relaying signs. Watching on TV and hitting a buzzer is a little different. All right, because it's much easier to do. There's no way to hide that.
You still know what's coming. What's the difference?
But once again, it's
you either know what's coming or you don't know what's coming.
Sorry, buzzer. Not the get me ever.
You can't get the Yankee fan off of this one. No matter what you do, you'll never get a Yankee fan off the Jose Altuve hate. It's impossible to happen.
But it's why when the Yankees were talking about bringing in Bregman, this is more of a truth. It could never happen. You can't bring in Bregman, Correa, or Altuve to the Yankees. Do you not know Yankee fans? All right. I mean, every time. I worry about Goldschmidt and Bellinger this year. If they get off the slow starts, Yankee fans are unforgiving. It's idiotic. I'm not that kind of fan, by the way. I'm not yelling and screaming because the guy went 0 for 4 on opening day. But that's what Yankee fans do. And Bregman, Altuve, Correa, you bring them into the Yankees, they're already hated. Right? They're hated before they even pitch game one. So you can never bring in a Bregman. I don't care who's playing third base for the Yankees. Bottom line is this, though. Alvarez, I have no problem drafting him. Is a guy I would even say I'm targeting. My only worry with him is not so much the lineup, Joe. He has the chronic wrist problems, and that's also, we made the oblique reference. Well, wrist injuries are never good either for a hitter, right? Because that's very tough to heal here. That's my only worry. He did play 147 games last year. Joe, I'm still waiting for that monster season from Alvarez. Where's the 45, 50 home runs? I am waiting for that. Could this be that year? Probably not, but I think it's in him. So that's why I have Alvarez bottom of round 1, top of round 2.
I got 2 words for you, George. Roger Clemens. Oh, you can't find a more hated guy yet. There you go. He played for the Yankees forever. All right, let's talk about another outfielder. This was the darling of the show last year, Jarren Duran. We were all over Jarren Duran last season, and my goodness, was he great. The projections this year have him around 20 homers and 30 steals. Maybe a little regression in the batting average. He had over 280 last year. This year, potentially hitting a little lower. Some of the regression could be there. The problem is Jarren Duran went from being a great sleeper pick to now you have to really invest. He's going around that same spot as guys like Jackson Merrill and some other players who might have a little bit more upside. To me, Jarren Duran at this stage in the ADP, I might be looking more at the Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s or the Francisco Lindors, the guys that have a little bit more of a track record. So although I still love Jarren Duran, the player, I just don't love the ADP. Now, when we come back, we're going to continue on with the outfielders because there's some guys that I think are not getting enough love, and we're going to show them some love right here on the program. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick break with some undervalued, underappreciated bats in the outfield.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everybody, to FST Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Joe Pisapia, George Kurtz taking you through the outfield, and it's time to talk about some guys who could be breaking out in 2025. Now, we saw a much better second half out of the next guy we're going to talk about because the first half was not pretty, but Jackson Chourio is still just a lad. He is so young, and there's so much baseball ahead of Jackson Chourio. You look at the stats projected in 2025 from FantasyPros.com. You're getting a 27 steals, 23 homers, an 85-85 kind of season. George, that's pretty good here for Jackson Chourio. He is going in that similar ADP to Julio Rodriguez, who we were discussing at the top of the show, who tends to be a slow starter. But Jackson Chourio's slow start could just be his adjustment to major league life, major league pitching, and all the above. Now, the question is going to be, does the league adjust back? After Chourio had a terrific second half, Milwaukee loses Willy Adames. That's a big part of this lineup that he is missing in projection. But to me, I'm looking at Chourio as a budding young star for the Brewers. Are you investing in Chourio in 2025?
Yeah. Listen, the pessimistic part is there, right? Because and I agree. Baseball's a game of adjustments, all right? I'm sure the pitchers are studying him during the offseason, looking for that hole in his swing, and they'll find it. And then he'll have to make an adjustment back. But I think he can. I also think you're bringing up Willy Adames, that they don't have him in the lineup. Yeah, that hurts. That Milwaukee lineup is not good. All right, it's not. And, you got Contreras, all right? You got Yelich, who's not the same player he was. Nice players, but you can do a little pitching around here, and maybe avoid Chourio a little bit. That being said, I don't think he's going to get that kind of respect yet. All right, playing in Milwaukee, it is a bandbox. All right, good hitters parked there. So I expect similar numbers to what he put up last year. Maybe a little uptick in the home runs. Maybe he gets to, upper 20s there. Stolen base, maybe get to 30 if he doesn't have, I guess the beginning of the season slump. If he hits the ground running right away. Bottom line is this: I'm in. I'm buying. I think I don't think he's a superstar. I don't think he's a Tatis Carroll like we talked about in the last segment. Wouldn't quite put him there. I think he's the next tier down. But I'm buying it. I think he's a good young ball player that I would love to have as my outfielder too.
Yeah, I agree. I'm buying. I like the ADP where it is as my second outfielder. I'm very happy with Jackson Chourio. The Pittsburgh Pirates, everybody's talking about their pitching staff, but it's the offense that's going to be what we're really focusing on here. And it's O'Neal Cruz moving from shortstop to the outfield full-time. Probably a good move for him. He's coming off a 2020 season. He's projected to have a 2020 season here this year. That's very valuable, more valuable at shortstop than it is in the outfield, though, George. That is the question, because at best, you're probably looking at a 250 hitter because he has a 30% strikeout rate. Still too much swing and miss from O'Neal Cruz. Now, when you're looking at him, George, and trying to figure out what kind of investment you're going to get on the return, he's a top 50 player. Does Cruz do enough for you at his position right now as a 25, 250 guy at his current top 50 ADP?
Well, I think if I'm taking O'Neal Cruz, and once again, I'm not shying away from it at all. I like the player. I think you want the upside, because I think there is upside. 30-30 is certainly not out of the realm of possibilities here. With an average that won't hurt you. I don't think you're ever going to get an average that's going to help you in fantasy, but with an average that won't hurt you. So, I like the upside here. Now, he does play in PNC, which is, by the way, a beautiful ballpark if you've never been there. Probably my favorite of the ballparks I've been to.
Yeah,
but
great.
It's a major, major pitcher's park. Right, the ball does not travel well there. It's great for doubles and triples, which is awesome for O'Neal, who's got speed, to spare there. But home runs, it's limited for home runs here. So I like the player, but if I do draft him, Joe, for where he's going, means I'm drafting him for the upside. Like I said, I think there's more to get out of him. So that's what I'm looking for here. But the other problem is for Pittsburgh, by the way, once again, he's another guy I'm not letting beat me. Not that he's Jose Ramirez, he's not. But Pittsburgh doesn't have a lot. Offense. I think they have the great pitching staff, but the offense is not much. You should be able to avoid him.
I know we're going to talk more about Pittsburgh in the second hour because we've got our National League Central preview coming up in hour 2. But what are the Pirates doing this offseason? I mean, they have all of this pitching here with Skeens and Keller and Jones, and they've got Bubba Chandler coming through. And they got, Tommy Pham hitting leadoff and Andrew McCutcheon hitting cleanup. I mean, this is a joke. I don't understand how they get away with this. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Anyway, we'll get more to that complaining later in the program, so stay tuned for that. Let's talk about James Wood, who's going around later than O'Neal Cruz, but I got to tell you, George, I'd rather have James Wood. In fact, I'll go a spot further. I would rather have James Wood at the ADP of O'Neal Cruz and be more aggressive on James Wood, because I think this is a player that has less swing and miss in him. I think this is a player who's got better on-base skills, and overall, that's going to lead to more fantasy productivity. I think he could have a 2020 season. I think he's going to have a better batting average, projected already at least 12 points above where you're going to have O'Neal Cruz. But I think there's room for a 280 season from James Wood in what could be a very competitive Nationals lineup. So I'm actually so on to James Wood that I'm willing to be more aggressive and take him around earlier where O'Neal Cruz is going. Where are you with James Wood? Talk to me about James Wood and O'Neal Cruz, because similar profiles, 2 young players, lots of upside, one going a little later than the other. How do you parse these two?
I almost feel like getting even with our producer, Sam Yarnell, who's a big Washington Nationals fan, just talk negative about every National player I can. That being said, I can't with James Wood. I love this player. All right. Listen, we are a gambling network. His home run prop was at 17.5. Probably 2-3 weeks ago, and I bet that heavy over. This man gets out of bed and hits 18 home runs. All right, you're seeing it in spring training. He's missed hitting balls and going out to left field. All right, he's big, he's strong, sort of a left-handed Aaron Judge, by the way. He doesn't need to connect to hit a home run. Though he's going to hit 20 plus home runs. All right, it's a big bet for me there. So yes, I am big on James Wood. Listen, I think Wood and O'Neal Cruz they're 2 different types of players here. For Cruz, you probably want. I don't know if Wood's going to be that stolen base guy. I expect more bases from O'Neal Cruz. And if I'm playing in a rotisserie league, a categories league, Joe, one of my bigger problems is drafting stolen bases. I have a hard time doing it. So I love drafting players who I'll draft anyway because I like them. They're good players. They got to hit home runs, but also steal bags. Because I have a hard time drafting a player who just for steals. So I can be very cognizant of that, but very aware when I'm drafting that I need bags. All right, so that's why I like O'Neal Cruz, but I love James Wood as the ball player. For the value you're talking about, if I can get Wood a round or 2 later, it's easy Wood. I don't even think it's all that close. If you're telling me, hey, you can draft O'Neal Cruz in round 4 or Wood round 6, it's Wood every time in round 6. It's not even a decision for me, and I would do that in multiple leagues, by the way.
Speaking of the bag, Lawrence Butler got the bag, the Athletics outfielder who was hotter than the sun last summer. I mean, the guy just absolutely obliterated baseballs, left-handed bat. He just signed a big extension with the Athletics. You're looking at his projections here this year, 19 steals, 24 home runs. I think there's room for more, George. I got to be honest with you. I love them moving to that Sacramento ballpark, getting away from that awful environment in Oakland. I think this is going to be really good. You're playing in PCL situations here. I think the ball is going to fly out a little bit better. And you're also getting rid of all that giant foul territory where guys would make a lot of outs in Oakland. That's not going to be the same thing in Sacramento. I think Lawrence Butler is one of these guys that at the end of the day, we're going to look up at the ADP and go, what were we thinking is way too low going into 2026. He is going to be a guy I think could be even a third round pick, maybe even more potentially. He's young still got to fix a little of the strikeout issues, but I think there's a ton of upside for him. He is currently the 70th player going off the board, and I think that it's far too low. Also, we talked about James Wood, but we also got to talk about Dylan Cruz, another player that I know Craig Mish loves. He's talked about him a ton. You look at the projections for him, 15 homers, 26 steals, 240 batting average. He is a fun, athletic player. George, Dylan Cruz, how many investments do you have in him in 2025?
I'm a little cautious on Cruz, but I like him as well. Another good young player here. But young player, I'm a guy who I like to say all the time, I like to look at the back of your baseball card. I know what you're going to do year after year. So when you've only done it once, I need more than that to really trust you in multiple leagues here. So Cruz, if I play in 6 leagues, I'd have Cruz in 1, maybe 2 at most here. Probably Butler's the same way, by the way. I probably like Butler a little bit more because I think he'll get more stolen bases. And I agree with everything you said about playing in Sacramento and getting out of Oakland.
Now, with the rules changes, steals are a little bit easier to come by. It's power that we have to covet. When we come back, there's an outfielder I want to talk about on the Athletics that has light tower power that could potentially have a 50 home run season. Who is it? I'll tell you when we return.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to FST. As I mentioned before the break, we're looking for power. We're looking for home runs. Why? Because chicks dig the long ball. That's right. I miss those commercials. Those were fun. Remember when pitchers used to hit, George? I know George loved when pitchers hit. He couldn't get enough of it. I'm kidding, of course. Brent Rooker last year for the Athletics, another big-time power season, and moving out of Oakland to Sacramento could be even better. I think these projections here, George, are a little light. 829 OPS, love that. I think there's room for more. 35 homers, 92 ribbies, 8 steals for good measure. I think there could be more. I really do. I'm looking at the ADP of Brent Rooker. And every time I keep coming back around and landing on it, George, is the same thing where, I keep looking at him going as the 50th player off the board. And I see a guy coming off a season, and if you're just looking at the numbers, you're taking away the team and the name, and I know he's still not a household name. 39 homers, 112 RBI, 11 steals, hit 293 last year. Sure, some regression for the batting average is possible. But George, those numbers are not good. They are great. They are top 25 numbers, top 20 numbers, yet he's going closer to 50. I think it's absurd, George, that people are not giving Rooker enough respect. Your thoughts on Brent Rooker in 2025?
I'd like to disagree with you and fight with you, but you're right. I mean, once again, I agree. And by the way, anybody who was watching the show yesterday morning already knows how I feel about Rooker. As one of our questions was, will he hit over 42 home runs this season? And I said yes. So I'm not going to go the other way now. Once again, what did you say last segment? Less foul territory. I'd have to give him a couple more at-bats during the season because there won't be foul outs. Remember, hitting the ball in Oakland, especially at night with that thick marine air, the ball didn't travel. Never did in Oakland. It will in Sacramento when they're playing in 100-degree heat and the ball's going at you like a Super Bowl, right? It's going to be like a golf tee shot over and over again. Yeah, I think he hits over 40. All right, and by the way, I would not be surprised if you told me at the end of the year that Rooker ended up hitting 49 home runs and led the American League in home runs. Wouldn't shock me in the least. Probably means Judge got hurt, but wouldn't shock me here. So, yes, I am all in on Rooker. And what did you say about his average taking a dip? Sure, that might happen. Can he still listen, I'm not drafting him for stolen bases. All right, so if he needs 15. No, I don't care. All right, if I'm drafting it, it's purely for the power. That's what I'm looking for. I want my home runs, and I think he gets it. I think he'll get a very good value because he's not a sexy name. He's just not a sexy name. Oh, it's Rooker. It's on the outside. Where are they playing? Oakland, Vegas, Sacramento, where are they playing? It's just not a sexy name here. So people will look to avoid him here. So not me. I'll take him on multiple teams here. I'll take that power.
You can win a lot of fantasy leagues drafting outfielders from Washington and from Sacramento this year. Just saying. Or just the Athletics, wherever we're calling them at this stage in the game. Now, there's another player that's not necessarily a very sexy name on the board, but his productivity and his floor every single year, you can basically set your watch to, and it's Brian Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, Reynolds is coming off another season of 24 home runs. That's back-to-back years. He's driven in 80 or more runs 2 years in a row. He's stolen double-digit bases 2 years in a row. He's hit over 260 2 years in a row. He is still one of the best-kept secrets in baseball, I think, and he is still in his prime, just 30 years old. I look at Brian Reynolds, and if I'm trying to make up ground in the outfield, let's say I went early infielder pitching, he's a really steady outfielder to have. He's a guy that I think that if you are in 5 outfielder leagues or even 4 outfielder leagues active, that he should be a target of yours because he's coming around pick number 85 overall. Now, I'm looking at Brian Reynolds as a very steady player that I could set my lineup, leave it alone. Maybe he doesn't have the upside of some other guys, but George, I think that weekly and seasonal floor is something that's still worth an investment. Do you agree?
I mean, the way you put it, sure, but he's unsexy because the upside's limited. But everything you said's correct. You know what you're going to get. So remember what I said earlier about looking in the back of your baseball card? Okay, I can check off this. This is what Reynolds is. I pretty much know what he's going to do. All right, I can check out my 23 home runs. Ding, ding. This is what I did. Generally, when it comes to a category league, by the way, if you're playing in a league that's been around for multiple years here, you can do the math. Okay, it's going to take 280 points, 280 home runs to win the home run category. So if I know Reynolds is going to hit 23, okay, now I need 257. Quick math there for you. So I know that's how I go about my draft, by the way. All right, he's going to steal 12 bases. Okay, I mark that off. So my counting numbers, I can figure out what I need or what I'm short in as the draft goes on here. Oh, I need more power. Oh, I need more bases. I need more strikeouts. That sort of thing. That's just how I go about my drafts in category leagues here. But like I said, there's not a lot of upside here. He's a guy where, once again, I'm going to play in anywhere from 6 to 8 fantasy leagues when it's all said and done. I won't have Reynolds in more than 2. All right, because the upside's not there for me. So I do like guys with some upsides we go along in our draft. That being said, it's another unsexy name. In a lot of leagues, you can get him at value.
Now, Seiya Suzuki is going right next to Brian Reynolds, basically, in most drafts. You're talking about literally the same player almost statistically, a little higher batting average perhaps for Seiya Suzuki, but a little bit less power theoretically. Which one would you rather have, Suzuki or Brian Reynolds? Very similar profiles. But the Cubs look to be potentially a much more potent offense in 2025.
Well, we talked before the show. I forget the exact question you were talking. You brought it up, but about diversifying. I think you already said it. They're pretty much the same player. All right. So if I took Reynolds in this draft, guess what? Tomorrow in a different draft, same choice. I'm taking Suzuki. I'm going to spread it out. I'm not going to have this. I'm not building all on one. I'm not taking, 4 Suzukis or 4 Reynolds. I'm going to spread it out, spread my risk out. Hopefully, I don't think either one's worth rolling the dice that's going to have a big year and take him in 4 or 5 leagues. I just don't see that here. Suzuki plays in Chicago. I said it earlier in the show. The wind blows in more often than it blows out in Chicago. We all think Wrigley, wind's blowing out. You can hit 18 home runs in a day. It doesn't always work out that way. I said wind blows in more here. I like the player, solid outfielder in that 3-4 range on my team here, but he's not, when it comes to comparing with other players, once again, I think the upside is limited. I also wonder if eventually he finds his way out of Chicago. It's another thing. I don't know how thrilled they are with the player either.
Interesting. All right. I'm like the Cubs, though, for that division this year. I think they've got the most talent on that roster and still some talent left to come. One more guy not to forget about, too. He's dealing with a knee issue right now, but as long as he's healthy on opening day, I think Brandon Nimmo, especially if he's hitting cleanup in that Mets lineup, my goodness, some big potential there. A little bit of a down season for him in some departments of the batting average, but I think that's going to bounce back. He's made some adjustments this offseason. Always been a good on-base guy, always been a guy that fills the stat categories as well. So Brandon Nimmo, very late, is another guy who's underrated. We come back, a deep dive on a potential Cy Young.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Scott Boras gets some people a lot of money, but sometimes those contracts and deals take a little bit longer to get done. They don't always work out. Blake Snell last year, unfortunately, did not sign till well into spring training, and then he's behind everybody else, and it showed. His first few starts in the major leagues last year for the Padres were not good. However, once Blake Snell got right, my goodness, was he good. In fact, he was dominant. You could say he was the best pitcher in baseball over the last 12 starts that he had last season. And now he finds himself on the Los Angeles Dodgers, a rotation that certainly has some volatility. Let's just put it that way. Do they have talent? Absolutely. Tyler Glasnow could be one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball, but he's never thrown 150 innings in a season. Yamamoto, a great young pitcher. Again, size and frame can be an issue. You've got May returning from injury. Clayton Kershaw, who knows when or if he'll pitch at some point. But Blake Snell, to me, is that true ace of this rotation. The lefty's going to benefit a great deal from Dodger Stadium, from this lineup, from this bullpen. And I think even if there's a six-man rotation here, that Blake Snell could make a run at 20 games. Take a look at the final 12 starts last year for Blake Snell. 5-0 record, a 1.45 ERA that was best in baseball over that span. Also 103 strikeouts, also best in baseball over that span. A .85 whip, just 27 walks. George, he was flat out dominant. And the Dodgers' one Achilles heel might be their defense potentially. Maybe you want to poke some holes there. But overall, it's tough not to like Blake Snell. I'm looking at him too, George, as a player that is my default de facto ace, whatever you want to call it, later in drafts, because he's going after the Logan Gilberts, after Corbin Burns, after Garrett Crochet, who has massive strikeout potential. I get it. He's very exciting. Cole Reagans, Dylan Cease, Chris Sale. And then Blake Snell, the 11th pitcher off the board. To me, I like to go hitting early, get those bats, build that offense. And when Blake Snell starts showing up in that third, fourth round, that's where I want to start going for pitching. And I think he could be a fantasy ace this year. Do you think he has the goods to be a fantasy ace for 30 starts this year? And look at that return, 10-1 on Cy Young. What do you think about Blake Snell as a Dodger in 25?
Well, he's got about as much chance of making 30 starts this year as I do. So that's not happening. Now, that being said, that's the only thing, part of your little comment there that I would disagree with. He's not making 30 starts, all right? 30 starts is a full season on a regular five-man rotation, all right? And Dodgers have already said they're not doing that, so he has no chance to do that. And listen, I don't know if anybody's goes 30 starts anymore. It's just not the way the game is played today, all right? It's just nobody believes in that anymore. I do, but whatever. No one cares what I think. Listen, I think Snell's very good. I think he's a very good starter here. Obviously, he's playing for a great team. All right, and Dodgers might win 108. I'm over 103.5 wins for the Dodgers. All right, I took the over again. Lost on it last year. I took it again this year. And I wouldn't be shocked if they set the record. They get 118 wins. All right, that wouldn't shock me either here. Do I think Snell will be there? Sure, but the counting numbers are not going to be there because if they stick with a six-man rotation, and I think they will because they have 8, 9, 10, 12 starters here. I don't think they want any of these guys to throw major innings because they don't care about the regular season. They only care about October. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. If they can keep these guys at 150, 160 innings, and they're all fresh arms for October, good luck beating the Dodgers. All right, if they're all fresh there. Like I said, you have Snell, you have Glasnow, and Glasnow's not throwing 150 either. Right? Yamamoto, Sasaki, Kershaw, Dustin May, Ohtani eventually here. This is guys on the top of my head that this team has. All right, what are they, 7, 8 starters right there? Of course they're going to be injuries here, but they can afford an injury or two, and this assumes that Snell's not one of those guys who gets hurt. I love Blake Snell, and by the way, I have no problem drafting him where you're going to because all the Dodger pitchers are going to be drafted. What are you going to do? But he's not going to make I think his Cy Young award will be hurt because the counting numbers won't be there according to a Zach Wheeler, according to a Paul Skeens. Could they get hurt too? Of course here. But that's my only caution is that, once again, the counting numbers are going to be hard because he's only going to make about 24, 25 starts.
It's not hard to imagine a guy who throws as hard as Skeens at some point having some sort of arm issue. I mean, I know his regimen is very different. He's a very unique guy. I love Skeens. It's very exciting. I'm going to take the other position here, which is we don't know how Ohtani comes back from his Tommy John. We don't know what that, or whatever it was. It wasn't Tommy John. It was this ghost Tommy John situation. Roki Sasaki, super exciting young guy. Sure, we're going to manage him. Yamamoto, durability, I have huge questions. I think out of necessity, Blake Snell is going to have to make 30 starts this year because I don't think there's going to be enough guys that they're going to feel good about, healthy, and ready to take their turns in the rotation. I think it's going to be a lot of guys working their way back from injuries, doing rehab starts. But Blake Snell is the guy you can give the ball to every fifth day. You can't do that with Tyler Glasnow. When we come back, we're going to talk about the National League Central Division and a little ADP wars. Who would you rather pick? I'll tell you. We return.